The executive offices of Eversharp in New York City were beyond sumptuous. A popular advertising slogan of the time was, "A title on the door means a Karastan on the floor," referring to a premium brand of carpeting. In his richly appointed Art Deco office, at an enormous teakwood desk that floated on a sea of the stuff, sat Martin Strauss, a sleek, heavy hitter in the Madison Avenue marketing game. He was a man not to be underestimated, a competitor who relentlessly took advantage, a demanding boss who abhorred the word no. On this particularly momentous day, in the midst of wartime, Strauss was surrounded by his faithful lieutenants. They'd been sweating bullets for weeks, and today the boss would finally get sight of their idea. As Strauss rose ominously from his desk, he brandished the company's current flagship product, a gleaming black fountain pen. "Gentlemen," he announced, "the fountain pen is dead. Long live oddball Byro's little brainstorm." And from his inside coat pocket, he produced a shiny prototype, the exclusive, patented Ballpoint from Eversharp. And he waved it in front of their faces as if to hypnotize them with its magic. "Now," Strauss growled as he planted his palms on the desk and leaned forward to stare them down, "where's my battle plan?" One of the lieutenants, a skinny one in a cheap wool suit, we'll call him Smith, jumped up. He walked over nervously to a drape-covered flip chart, and with a pleading look for encouragement from his fellows, he pulled the drape aside to reveal a colorful poster. The predominant theme was red and green Yuletide. A rosy-cheeked Santa was adjusting his spectacles to read a huge scroll, and in one mitten he held an oversized rendering of the miracle pen. "Santa's making his list," Smith recited from the printed slogan, "and checking it twice with his new Eversharp Ballpoint pen." Strauss sat slowly back in his leather chair. He rested his chin on his hand, and he stared for a long moment at the poster. Smith didn't dare move, nor did any of the others, much less did anyone venture to say anything. Silence descended on them like a pall, and the only discernible sound was the delicate ticking of the ormolu clock on Strauss's desk. Was it measuring out the final seconds of their gainful employment? In fact, Strauss was not particularly taken with this concept. For his personal taste, he would have preferred a pretty girl poised provocatively with the new thing. His prospects would be men, after all, returning vets, officers probably, who would be resuming their paper-pushing white-collar jobs. And for all the changes that had been wrought in the country in the last few years, prudishness was now old hat. The GIs had seen the seamy side of life, and these days a man could even tell a risque joke in mixed company. Billboards teased them with exposed gams, and there were no more flat-chested movie stars. Breasts had swollen up to fill those blouses and sometimes even spilled out. But trying his ideas out on his wife the previous evening, he had stood corrected. Yes, the pens would be for men as Christmas gifts. A good fountain pen cost $5, and there was no reason to offer these little gems at a lesser price. It was luxury goods, and there wouldn't be much of that to go around this season. But it would be the woman who would do the shopping. It would be her big gift to him. Strauss had to admit his wife was right. The consumers of his new product would be men, but the purchasers would be women at Christmas time. And with any luck, the war would be over, or as good as over, and the household might have some money to spend. For all its flash as a luxury item, the gift was practical. The wife or girlfriend would want credit for giving him what he'd no doubt show off as a status symbol at the office. But she'd justify it to herself, thinking it was practical. Women made shopping lists. Businessmen made to-do lists. This pen was just a thing to make your list and add it to your gift list. And that's just what Santa here was doing. By God, I like it, Strauss said. The room was suddenly abuzz with self-congratulation. Smith in particular was stunned. It was not lost on him that his selection from among his peers probably indicated a certain lack of confidence. If one of them had to stick his head out of the foxhole to get shot, it would be he. He had the least seniority, and he had no family. But today he was a winner. Flushed with pride, his head bobbed in acknowledgement to Strauss as he meekly resumed his seat. Strauss rose again. Naming his biggest competitor, he thundered, "Those poor bastards at Parker are going to drown in their own red ink." He laughed until he wheezed, and so did his good-natured fellows. He grew steely-eyed and clenched his jaw, signaling his forthcoming charge to them in all seriousness. "I want the rollout in October. We're going to hit them with everything we've got." There was an audible collective gasp among the troops. It was almost summer already. There was no time. Certainly Strauss wouldn't be setting the target unless manufacturing could deliver. But advertising took time to set up. The poster was just a notional thing. Every one of them had assumed the rollout would be Christmas season next. And ordinarily retailers bought for Christmas no later than July. But this year was no ordinary year. For one thing, there were precious few consumer goods, not for lack of products, but due to shortages of materials. For another, there were all kinds of rumors that peace would break out suddenly and perhaps any time, and no one in retailing was prepared. But Strauss seemed undeterred. "Men," he snarled, "this is top secret until VE Day." Now, for the briefest moment, they feared he'd lost his grip. Victory in Europe had already been achieved last May. Did he mean the anniversary of VE Day next year? But how did that square with the October launch? Perhaps not surprisingly, not one of them asked for clarification. Amused by their perplexity, Strauss came around the desk. He dealt Smith a sound thwack on the back and exclaimed, "Victory for Eversharp."
Thank you so much.